Okay, so yesterday we kind of went through the um, backdrop, historical backdrop of this sermon, compared Jesus to the personality of Moses, began talking about the first of the three expressions which have been dubbed the Beatitudes. Um, one of the interesting things about this Sermon on the Mount in terms of its interpretation is that we know that there are 36 known interpretations of this sermon. It's one of the most widely read passages of Scripture in all the Bible. If you go online and Google or a search engine, put in Sermon on the Mount, you'll get millions of hits. This Sermon on the Mount is also one of the most presented passages of Scripture in terms of series. There are preachers who preached as many as 40 and 50-week series just on these three chapters. So there's a lot of wide usage. We talked about yesterday some of the language that comes out of this sermon, where Jesus talks about being the salt of the earth, judge not, and just a lot of the expressions we'll see, an eye for an eye, different things that we kind of talk about every day come right out of this sermon. So it's unique in that one of the unique things about the sermon is the style, stylistically, the way Jesus presents it. In fact, people talked about him as he presented and said that they never heard a person speak like him. And it's not that he had an accent, not that he had a particular way with words, but he spoke as somebody who had authority. He was authoritative. So he would not say, Rabbi Gamaliel said. He would say, I say to you. And for that time and culture, that was a very unique way of presenting words from God, because people knew that God was unique and nobody could actually speak for God. So when Jesus comes and say, you have heard, but I say, that kind of like shook people. Even the authorities, they would never say, I say. They would say, Rabbi so-and-so said, and usually people they quoted were Moses, the prophets, or somebody who was dead and gone, and they would use their authority. But Jesus came with his own authority, and we're going to see that some more as we unpack part 2. Now, we went through 3 of the Beatitudes, and these are ways that people in the kingdom behave. And one of the big things that we hope that you remember about this is that when he starts talking about the kingdom, he's not talking about a set of rules. He's not saying do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. He says, but kingdom people are transformed, they're changed, they act differently than other people, and this is how. And so this is what is really unique about it, okay? So, Sermon on the Mount and the Sermon on the Mount, okay? So I have some QR codes. They've been acting a little strange. If you don't get them, don't worry about it. We'll go through the information. But this will require, if you have a phone, to just point your phone, the camera, point it. Don't take a picture, but just point it, and your camera will turn into a scanner, and it will scan the QR code. So those of you at home on Facebook and YouTube, when you see the QR codes on your screen, if you have another device, you can just aim it at the QR code, and it'll actually tell you to open in Google, Safari, or whatever browser you have. Okay, but some of these links were acting crazy, so I hope they kind of calmed themselves since. Okay, so here is some info on the Sermon on the Mount. Okay, if you want to download it, be nice. And I figure we'll give you some QR codes to download so that everything won't appear on the screen You have some stuff that you can actually carry along with you. Let me see if it works, because it did. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I prayed on these QR codes, so great. All right. Let me see. What do you have on yours? Oh, awesome. Yeah, yeah. The good thing about that is you can keep that, and basically it is a series of about 9, 12 different pictures that talk about Matthew 5 to 7. Okay? If I put them on the screen, I have to go through every one of them. If you have them on your phone, you can go through them at your own leisure. Okay? And it's a good way to have just, if you want to have a devotional, you just want to have a time where you can just go back and try to recollect everything that we'll be talking about in this intensive. You got it right there, okay? All right, so we got a few more QR codes. They'll be coming up. And if you can't get them, don't worry. After this class is over, I can go back and actually find a way to transfer them to your device if you're here, okay? Okay, so we do have some folk who are checking in with us online, and I think what I'm going to do is join them so that when they put comments in the comments field, we can just jump on with them and get it with whatever they're asking. Okay. All right, so we have it. Okay. So if you have a comment or question, we'll be looking at the feed online. Okay? So, the Sermon on the Mount, the Beatitudes, here they are. And they are from verses like 3 down to 12. We talked about blessed are the poor in spirit. And we talked about it's a lot of people hear the word poor, and they think that it's about material. They think it's about wealth. They think it's about possessions. But this is about an attitude. It's about thinking about, I desperately need the kingdom. I desperately need God. I need him more than anything. And when you have that mindset, the kingdom is already yours. Blessed are those who mourn is not about bereavement. It's not about somebody who has lost someone or something, a job, a friendship, but it's really about someone who has the heart of God, who their heart breaks and bleeds like God does. It's like you see the condition of our world, and what do? Do you feel like God does, or do you just say, hey, they're getting what they deserve? So those who mourn actually are those who ask questions like, not what's in it for me, but what does God feel about it? Those are the people who mourn. So you hear about poverty, you hear about mourning, and you think that these are really negative people. These are people going around down and sad, but that's just not the case. And the third thing we talked about was the meek. Now, this is one of those things that Christians kind of get brushed with being meek, because the culture, our commander-in-chief has a real aversion to meek people. He calls people who are meek weak. That's not what the Bible's talking about. In fact, God himself said that the meekest man in the world was Moses. But Moses killed a man with his bare hands. So he wasn't weak. It's about whether or not we can deal with the authority, the power, the resources we can have, and use them in a way where we aren't assaulting people, we aren't overstepping our authority. Where we talked about the pastor who had the young preacher who was talking about him, and and he could have, he could have killed him. He could, I mean, not literally, but figuratively. He could have shut him down. He could have talked about him, but he called him in and said, "Help me to see what you're seeing." And that was a sign of meekness, but it also was a sign of strength. But sometimes you got to be strong not to hit back, not to react in kind. Okay, so those were the three that we looked at in depth. So here is another QR code, and this is about the Beatitudes, the meaning and the significance of the Beatitudes. So if you scan that, you'll get a nice piece on the meaning, okay, and the significance of the Beatitudes. All right? Okay. All right, so anybody got a question so far about anything that we talked about on yesterday and bring us up to speed about where we are today? Any questions? Comments? Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. Now, I'm just following our feed online. So what we want to do, just take a couple minutes and, I think we're going to do this in groups, okay? So we're just looking at the first three Beatitudes that we talked about in the first session, okay? Poor in spirit, mourning, and meekness, okay? So rather than put ourselves in groups, we probably could just stay in one large group here and just talk about them, okay? So we'll choose one of them, okay? Let's see. We talked about poor in spirit a whole lot, right? So let's talk about mourning, okay? Let's talk about mourning, okay? Blessed are those who mourn, okay? So what we want to ask is, what does that mean when you hear that? What does that mean when you hear that passage? Blessed are those who mourn. Right, right. Okay. Now, you say it's heartbreaking, okay? And I think that's what Jesus would want us to feel. But what does that mean for us? Is it just a feeling? Is it anything else when we talk about mourning? Loss? Okay, okay. Okay, so in this new kingdom, because this is what Jesus is talking about, his kingdom, is he asking us to be observers? To do something, okay? So I think what I'm trying to get us to see is that Jesus is not just asking us to feel a certain way, to feel empathy, to feel, pity. I think the people who mourn are probably the people who do. Because I think a lot of us see it, but do we do anything about it? Mm-hmm. Right, 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 right. Yes, ma'am. So what? Oh, yes, the drug treatment. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I think because Jesus is talking about how his kingdom is different, and we talk about mourning and having the heart of God, that I think that in Jesus' kingdom, he would want us to do more than just feel bad about something. Because that's what Jesus would do. He would identify. Uh, we read at the end of Matthew chapter 4 about the multitudes, the Decapolis and Galilee and Capernaum and all these regions that heard him. And then when we get to chapter 5, verse 1, it says, and he saw the crowds. And I think in his kingdom, he said he's moving us to, we got to do more than just see. Because that's what people are doing in this kingdom. You know, I don't want to get political, but when you talk about a country that is now in danger of running out of munitions, and then just 6 months ago couldn't spend a few $100 million to keep people on SNAP. Yeah, okay. All right, so what does it not mean to mourn? What does it not mean? Okay, okay. Oh yeah, I think that's a great point, because if we're honest, a lot of folk have lost their capacity. That is, and let's be honest, this is by design. That's a great word, desensitize. Because if I can desensitize you, and you no longer see me as human, you no longer see me as a part of the human family, they can deport me, they can shoot me, they can do a lot of things, and then you just won't say anything until they come for you. Yeah. So yeah. So when Jesus says, "Blessed are those who mourn," he is saying in his kingdom, it's not just like you lost somebody and you're feeling the grief and the weight of that absence. This is different. This is recognition, feeling the way God feels about people. Okay? So it's not our traditional way of thinking about mourning. Okay? How does our culture contradict what Jesus says about mourning? All right. Okay. That's a good point. Anybody else? How does our culture contradict? Now, let's be honest. We're living in a time where you can pick up the newspaper. The Speaker of the House is avowedly Christian, evangelical. A lot of the members of Congress will get up and wear Christ, T-shirts, everything. When they had the insurrection, people were singing hymns. had crosses. Well, yeah, they also had one for Mike Pence, but but they were using the symbols of Jesus. Okay, so we have to look at this and recognize that culturally, when we talk about mourning, we're not talking about what Jesus had in mind in his kingdom. Okay, all right. And then lastly, how can we live it this week? How can we live this blessed are those that mourn this week? How can we be mournful? I know it's early. How can we be mournful? All right. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Oh, okay. So, anybody else? How can we live this? Blessed are those that mourn, for they will be comforted. Okay. Now, let me raise a point like this. Is this mourning uh, for the recipient, or is this mourning for the person who's actually mourning? Kind of. I think one of the struggles I've been having with this verse is that a lot of times people look at this verse and say, okay, this is something I'm supposed to do for somebody else. But I want to raise it, where are you in this? Where are you in it? Are you just the person who is the conduit through which somebody else gets help? Or are you the actual mourner? Okay. Okay. All right. So I'm wondering if Jesus is asking us, are we part of this problem? Because okay, because we talk about the mourning, we talk about, okay, I see them, I see that, but what is it about us that's mournful? Okay, we don't do anything about it. We don't have the heart of God. And I think this is what Jesus is getting to. In my kingdom, it is different. My subjects have my heart. And if they don't have my heart, they're not my subjects. They may have proximity to my kingdom, but they're not in my kingdom. Because my kingdom people rule like this. All right? All right. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we do. Okay. Okay. So what Jesus was saying, the kingdom, somebody would help pick you up. Ergo, you should help pick somebody else up. Because the kingdom, see, the kingdom is not like this world. In this world, if you fall, we're going to look around to see if you, like the Good Samaritan, we're going to see if somebody's laying in wait and it's just a trap. Or if we're late on our way to church, we're going to cross by the other way. Okay? Jesus said, no, in the kingdom, people are mournful. A lot of their mournful is the recognition and the remembrance of who they were and where they were when they got rescued. Okay? All right. All right. So we just, now we get into the fourth beatitude, okay? Whew, okay. Hunger and thirst for righteousness. This is Matthew chapter 5, verse number 6. Now I'm reading it from the NIV. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Okay? So we talked about the poor in spirit, those who mourn. We talked about the meek. Okay? And now we're talking about people who are hungry and thirsty. So it's almost like Jesus is on his poor people's campaign, right? He's talking about poverty. He's talking about mourning. He's talking about being meek, and then he talks about being hungry and thirsty. So here's another device Jesus uses in the Sermon on the Mount, and he uses a lot in his teaching, is that he would use very common things and talk about them in ways to where people who understood him could embrace it. People who didn't understand it, it went over their heads. Okay? So the common person who came, they may have heard some of what we were talking about with poor in spirit, but everybody didn't. Everybody didn't hear or didn't understand what he was talking about when he talked about mourning or being meek. But there were enough people who understood the kingdom language because he's actually creating a new way of talking. Okay? So he's talking about mourning. I'm sorry, hunger and thirst. And what Jesus is talking about, let me just ask a question straight up. I think I know the answer. But has anybody here, online or in person, have you ever been hungry? Okay? All right. Now, today's culture, we've kind of added on to the word hunger, and they got a new word. It's called hangry. Anybody ever heard of that? When you are both hungry and angry. Yeah. Snickers has done a whole take on that. When people their whole mindset changes and they become a whole different personality, and then somebody gives them a Snicker bar and they come back to reality. Anybody ever been there? All right. But Jesus is asking a question. Blessed are those who hunger and now this does not sound. He's been talking about poverty. He's talking about mourning. He's talking about being meek. And now all of a sudden he starts talking about being hungry and being thirsty. But I think Jesus has something different in mind. Let's look at this. Could it be that Jesus is asking this? How badly do you want what God wants? We talked about mourning, having a heart for God. Now, do you really want what God wants to the point that it's like, if you don't get that, you'll never be satisfied? And a lot of people, the answer is no. I'm not that hungry for God. I'm not that hungry for the things of God. I mean, I'm hungry for, and what happened is, complete this sentence for me. I would like to hear how you complete this sentence. I've been wrestling with this sentence. Complete this sentence. Especially those of you online, I want y'all to chime in. I see y'all watching, but I need y'all to chime in with some questions, some ideas, okay? All right, complete this sentence. I can tell what I hunger for because I spend my money, I spend my blank on it. Fill in the blank. Your time. What else? Just your money and your time? Your energy? Okay. All right. I can tell what I hunger for because I spend my blank on it. Dedication, energy. All right. Every waking moment on it. That's a good one. Oh my. I feel convicted already on that one. Woo! That's a good one. All right. So, a lot of people say they hunger and thirst for righteousness, but it's not their preoccupation. It's not what they chase. You tell what folk are hungry for. It's what they're chasing after. They don't rest till they get it. Now, because we're Christians and we're in a Christian environment, everybody raises their hand and say, I'm running hard after Jesus. And Jesus said, I'm not running that fast. Y'all can catch me if you want me. He said, I'm not elusive. I'm not difficult to find. He said, if you seek me with your whole heart, you'll find me. And a lot of folk are telling me, I'm online, I'm teaching, I'm doing, people ask me, how do I know what God wants? I'm like, hold on, y'all still don't know that? Jesus said, in my kingdom, it's really about this. How badly do you want what I want? Or are you spending your energy on or spending your time every waking moment on? Jesus said, if it's not what I want, it's not going to satisfy you. You ever find people who wanted stuff and worked hard to get it and finally got it and it didn't satisfy? I'll give you a classic example. This. Anybody know what this is? Okay. Brenda and I, we go to the mall. We don't go shopping all the time. We go to get steps, okay, to walk. And every mall we go to, we got 3 of them that we kind of go to all the time to take laps through and, just to walk. But 2 of them, I said 2 of them. One of them, 2 of them have a store. That's an Apple store. Okay, 2 of the malls we go to all the time have Apple stores. And the amazing thing is that no matter when we go to the mall, the Apple store is always full. And I'm like, I'm trying to figure it out. Primarily, they selling phones, computers, iPads, tablets. I'm like, man, there must be a lot of demand for this. What I've also found out is that when Apple announces it's coming out with a new product, and here's what they do a lot of times, is they'll have product, a phone, and they'll call it iPhone 1, and then they'll come out and say this is iPhone 2 3, and then they get to a certain number and they say, this is 14.5. But every time they announce a new upgrade or a new phone, there's a line. Folk have been known in Manhattan to sleep overnight, camp out so that they could be the first ones to have this new phone. Phone may cost $800, $1,000, $2,000, and people are like, I gotta have it. And Apple knows that in a year, they're going to have another launch of a whole new item, and that person who just stayed online for 8, 10 hours is now going to say, you know, I need a new phone. Now, anybody know what the phone is for? Anybody know what the phone is for? See, that's the kingdom. That's the kingdom. All right. Here's what the phone is for. Hello? It's a telephone. All right? But I got to this, and I know folk who get caught up into it. It's supposed to do that, but it does so much more. Till every time there's an upgrade, we feel like, okay, I need to catch up with it because I'm going to miss something, okay? So when Jesus tells this thing that many of us are like folk who are chasing upgrades. That we can't, even though the phone does what it's supposed to do, we want to do so much more. And when you know, they say, well, we got a new one that can do this times, or it's faster, or has more storage, or we are running. Okay? So Jesus is saying, look, blessed are those who hunger for what he's hungry for. Not something that once you get it, it's not going to satisfy you. Okay? You want that dress so bad, right? You went by the window, you saw the dress, and you know, ladies, you know, you shop. I'm just imagining because guys, if you ever been to a store where they have a men's department and a ladies department, I always talk about Macy's because Macy's is one of those stores where, in my opinion, they have a men's section and the whole rest of the store is for ladies. Everything else in the store, everything else in the store is for ladies. Okay, we got black pants, gray pants, brown pants, and blue, and that's it. Well, I go in there, I get my little shirt and pants, and I'm like, ladies they got the active wear, they got the dresses, I'm like, man, y'all got all this stuff. And so what happens is Jesus is saying, hey, I want people who are hungry, not for the latest style, but they hunger for what makes me hungry. And he says in the kingdom is made up of people who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Okay? They see injustice and it does something to them. That's the kind of people Jesus is talking about in the kingdom, okay? All right, so I got this thing about appetite. Let me put this up here. Now, in our culture today, and we had this case study that really provoked a lot of energy because we're talking about this, we call this successful Christian who didn't have an appetite for the things that God had. Y'all remember Marcus? Okay, so let's look at some appetite stuff, okay? So we're talking about our spiritual hunger and the things that will compete with our hunger and thirst for righteousness, okay? So blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Now here are some of the things that are at odds with that. Number one is what? Money. Money, money, money. Y'all ain't heard. Nah, I'm sorry. The wrong group, wrong crowd. Sorry. Entertainment. Now, you may not be able to see it on the screen, but this person is watching a screen that has like 15 different things on it. So he's having this whole system is being just saturated with media. Okay? Look at this. Sex. Okay? These are things why people can't have spiritual hunger and they don't want the things that God wants. Some people want recognition. They want fame. They want to be noticed. Okay? I know you don't know, maybe, but sometimes you hear people who they talk about how many followers they have. You ever hear people talk about how many followers? And I'm always looking behind them. I'm like, how you got followers and nobody behind you? Oh, they somewhere online. Well, can you marshal them? Can you bring them together? Oh, I got 100,000. I got 1 million. Okay, well, okay. But sometimes we get so caught up, and Christians do it too, where we want to put things on the internet. We want to put things on these platforms, and we just want to see how many people are going to react. How many likes can I get? How many comments can I get, right? Here's another thing, politics. Now, we're living in this golden age where, well, not golden in a great way, but in this age where politics have become insatiable for Christians. Now, some of our president's advisors, his closest advisors, are supposedly religious people. Okay? One of his closest advisors, who advises him on a lot of stuff, is Paula White. I know I'm not supposed to do political stuff. But, okay. But these folk will publicly say they represent God. And they tell you while they represent God, send me a few dollars so I can send you a trinket because I represent 47. All right? Social media, right? And some people have become so caught up with being just comfortable. This is one of the big things we struggle with right now is comfort as this antithesis of spiritual hunger, because even Christians have gotten, since COVID, comfortable with being away from God. So God is now somebody on your menu that you dial up when you want them. I want church. So here's what I've been finding out is that a lot of people don't visit New Hope on Sunday. Some folk visit our Sunday service when it's convenient for them. All right? So that means because I get to look at our Facebook and YouTube metrics, I see that the majority of people will watch our Sunday service live on Sunday, but when I come back the next day or 2 days later, I find that the numbers are continuing to grow because people are saying, oh, I can dial y'all up whenever I want. I now have God on demand. Okay? So you thought Netflix was something. Now the church is like, okay, folk in church are now saying, I got so comfortable, I can sit on my bed, I can sit on the couch, and I can have church whenever I want to. And finally, one of the biggest competitions with spiritual hunger is success. I got people right here in this church, I can't name their names, but people right here in the church who can't come to church because they got a side hustle. And they let me know, you know, I'm working while it's day. You sure are. One day night's coming. One day God's going to ask you to give an account, okay? So what would it look like if instead of these, and we could add more, right? What would it look like if people chose spiritual hunger instead of these? What might it look like? Talk to me. All right. All right. Now, those you online and those you in person, okay, let me raise this question. Of these 8 on the screen, which of these draws you and pulls at you the most? Which of these pulls at you? Politics. All right. Anybody else? Is there one that really pulls at you? All right. All right. All right. All right. Okay, I'm going to just let y'all wrestle with that because, I know we're in this place where, you're on Facebook and you don't want everybody to know that you being pulled by every one of them. But we just going to let you pick one and you can hold that to yourself and just in your private thoughts say, Lord, thank you he didn't call me. All right, this is a sermon about the Beatitudes. And I thought it was good. The young guy who's preaching does a pretty good job of encapsulating everything that we talked about yesterday. And I said, boy, it's on YouTube. You scan that and you can watch. It's about 30-minute sermon. So don't watch them while we're doing this, all right? But it's a very, very, very good sermon. It's good, and I was very impressed because this is a young guy, and is really, really dressed casual, but he really goes to the essence and the core of what the Beatitudes are all about. Okay, and sometimes it's helpful for us to hear stuff again and maybe hear it in another voice, and make helpful for us. Okay. So now we're going to talk about part 2 of the Beatitudes, okay? And for here, we're going to be talking about those who show mercy, okay? The pure in heart, the peacemaker, and the persecuted, okay? Now, Jesus is going to change his inflection. He's going to change his voice because he begins in verse number 3 saying, blessed are the poor in spirit. Then he says, blessed are those who mourn. Then he says, blessed are the meek. Blessed are those who hunger. And then we're going to see something, okay? So now, verse 7, Matthew chapter 5. Okay? Blessed are the merciful. Now, when you hear the word mercy, what do you think about? When you hear the word mercy, what do you think about when you hear the word mercy? Forgiveness, compassion, and you say? All right, give someone something they don't deserve. Okay? Now, there are 2 words that we use in Christianity a lot, and they're kind of like synonymous, but they have pretty, when you dig deeper into them, they have a pretty broad distinction. One is grace, and the other is mercy. Okay? I call them the twins. David in the 23rd Psalm talked about goodness and mercy, these companions. We talk in this milieu we live in, we talk about grace and mercy. So, as Sister Elizabeth Jackson talked about, when somebody is merciful, okay, that's when I show you mercy, I do not give you what you deserve. That's an act of mercy. Okay? You think about it. You should have been, as the old folks said, I should have been dead and gone. But God was merciful. He allowed me to wake up and see another day. So mercy is when I have an absence. I don't get. So when people say, Lord, have mercy, they're really asking God to take away from them. Don't give them what they deserve. Grace, on the other hand, is when someone gives you something you didn't deserve. Grace is when I get it. Mercy is when it's withheld from me. So there are times when I should have gotten it, and I didn't. That was mercy. And then there's times when I didn't deserve it, but he gave it to me anyway. That was grace. So these two forces work in tandem. So Jesus says in his kingdom, blessed are the merciful. Okay? Here's the question. You ready for the question? All in favor? What did God give me or you that you did not deserve? Anybody in here a recipient of what you didn't deserve? Oh, y'all meritorious. Y'all look meritorious. Y'all believe in the meritocracy, right? Everything I got is what I deserve, what I earned. I work hard for my money, honey. Y'all talk all this grace and mercy stuff, but yeah, God woke me up, but who went to work? Who was the one who slaved on that job? Who was the one who put up with all that stuff? Okay? What did God give that you did not deserve? That it? I mean, that it that you woke up? Sinners wake up. You say you're still here, honey. You said, I'm still here. I'm still alive. The saint and the sinner is still alive. A variation on a theme. I'm just bothering you, Sister Judge. Don't even ask Sister Brenda how many chances I done used up. I came in the world on my third chance. What you talking about? What did God give me that I didn't deserve? Everything. Now you're beginning to talk like a kingdom person. Because Jesus said in the kingdom, people recognize grace. But people in the kingdom also recognize while they got what they didn't deserve, they were withheld from things that they should have gotten. So let me raise this question. What did God hold from you that you should have got that you didn't get? Oh, Lord have mercy. Some of y'all ain't never had mercy, you know, where you know you should have got beat. I mean, you know you should have got in trouble. You know you were caught out there. And so, look, when I grew up, we had young men, young boys in high school who were getting shot and killed. They weren't better than I was. A lot of them weren't in different places than I was. And I look over my life sometime and I think about, Lord, how in the world did I escape? Because it was not the grace of God, it was the mercy of God who kept me from receiving. I made some errors in my life where I just should have been penalized on the spot. They should have dropped the flag, said, wait a minute, give me a technical, eject me, throw me out of the game. But mercy said, let him keep playing. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're the singer. You know that.
We wanted to go to a party. We were younger, and we were told not to go. And we took it upon ourselves to sneak off the block and go. During the time we were walking to get to that party, by the time we got from 1st Street to 5th Street, downtown Jersey City, there was a trestle that divided 5th Street from 6th Street. When we got to 5th Street, we heard this loud screeching noise. Couldn't figure out where it was coming from. But the louder it got, we had to stop in our tracks. A car came from around the corner in a different direction from 6th Street into 5th Street. Crashed into a pole. The only thing that was there that kept us from getting smashed up against that concrete divider, that bridge down there,
I know you're right.
was that pole. That night, we never made it to the party because of God's grace. We survived. That pole in that car, a couple more inches, neither one of us would have been here that night.
Okay, so you call it grace.
I call it
mercy.
mercy. Okay.
Because that car may have had your name on it.
Yeah.
But God caused a detour.
Yes.
See, he put something between you
and the car.
And
the car.
The car.
Yes.
That's mercy.
That's mercy. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Grace is what you got when you got home.
Yes.
Because you should have got tore up.
Yes.
But you're still here.
Yes.
Lord have mercy.
And
preach.
It's true. It's true. It's true. Right. We should have gotten torn up, but we didn't.
You still here.
Yeah. My father was gracious enough to just sit us down
and talk to you. Right. That's grace. But the mercy was, you should have been out of here. Yes, ma'am.
You know, Reverend Perry, like they say, like us older folks said, when I look back over my life and I see how he brought me from, it's because a lot of things happen in our lives.
Right.
That God gave us grace to see through and a lot of mercy. So a lot of grace. That's why I'm still here. Amen.
Thank you for that. All right. Now we got some viewers online. And I see they giving amens. Look, if y'all online, just give me some hearts and some love, some thumbs up, okay? Oh, they on YouTube. I'm on Facebook. Oh, my. Hold on 1 second while I change platforms. Okay. YouTube. I got to put in New Hope. I don't see y'all on Facebook, on YouTube. Well, Reverend, can you help me? I guess you'll come and help me. But okay, so we got a case study, okay? Yeah. All right. Let me see. All right, this is about a church conflict, okay? Now, these are two people. This is called the church conflict. Here's a case study. Two leaders that haven't spoken for 2 years. Here's the question. Who should make the first move? What does mercy require? What motives need to be examined? And can one person pursue peace when the other refuses? Let's talk about it. Who should make the first move? Sister Brenda? Yeah, thank you. Church conflict. 2 leaders haven't spoken for 2 years. All right, who should make the first move? What you think? And this has been going on for 2 years now. She just told the truth, didn't she? Baby, you done told the truth up in here. It's hard after 2 weeks, but after 2 years, woo! Now, there's a problem, right? Because these are 2 church leaders, and they're not talking to each other. So one of the questions is, who moves first? Is there obligation? Is there a principle? Is there a rule that we can go by? What do you think? They need a mediator. Okay, so we got online, we got somebody, J.M. Carter says, the one who is truly seeking God. Okay, Ken Carter says, it does not matter who makes the first move. One of them needs to be the biggest person. So what do you think? Now, here's the, go ahead. See now listen to her. She done hung over me so long. She getting this, I'm gonna let you teach the rest of this. Go ahead.
No, I think maybe the person.
Okay, here's a Christian principle, okay? The Bible, and Jesus talks about this in the sermon. If you have aught against your brother, leave your gift. He talks about this in the Sermon on the Mount. If you have aught against your brother, leave your gift at the altar. Go reconcile with your brother, then come back and give your gift. Here's a principle I was taught, okay? That you have an issue with me, okay? I'm not in an obligation to do anything, because I don't even know you got a problem with me. You may say under your breath, I can't stand, I hate him. I don't want to be around, don't want to hear. I don't know, okay? So I don't have aught against you, because I don't even know that you have a problem with me. Now, when it rises to the level that I become aware that you now got a problem with me because you done went public and you done told my best friend, or you done went up and stood in front of people and said, I can't stand Perry, I wish he would shut his mouth, blah, 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 blah. Now, I'm feeling some way about you. So now I've got an obligation to approach you and say, Sister so-and-so, did I hear correctly that you said blah, blah, blah about me? And they say, no, Pastor, I didn't say it. I said, cool, we cool. Okay, so the person who feels offended has the obligation to go in and make sure that everything is right on their end. I got a lot of people who don't like me, but thank God I don't know they don't like me. Because long as it's between them and God, it's something they got to wrestle with. But when it becomes something between me, them, and God, I got to be accountable for my action, how I'm going to handle it. Does that make sense? Yeah, go ahead.
If you see someone who consistently avoid you when they see you coming, or you say hello, they don't say anything, I think you do have a, obligation to go to that person. Is there a problem?
Yeah.
You're upset with me, or, and I've noticed that you don't speak to me, or you try to avoid me, and, can
All
we
right.
talk about this?
All right. So Deacon Shirley Anderson said the one who started the conflict should be the person who makes the first move. Well, just like when we talked about Marcus, right? This successful Christian. These are supposed to be Christians. Okay? And if the people in the house of God can't rule themselves, what are we going to do? Go to court? We're going to ask an unrighteous judge to judge over how we ought to act in the kingdom. Jesus said in the kingdom, we don't act like that. If we have an ought against each other, we leave our gift, we settle our disagreement, our dispute, and then we come back and give our gift. Okay? This the kingdom now. This ain't the world. World, eye for eye. You cuss me out, I'm coming for you. But we're not in the world. We're in it, but we are citizens of a different kingdom. Okay? You follow that? All right. All right. So what does mercy require? What's that? Now you're going to go right back to what Sister Handy talked about, or yesterday, right? Forgiveness. Okay? Now, I forgave the joker. I forgave the person, right? And now they still won't talk to me. Now what? I forgave them. We sat down. I said, hey, this is over. I forgive you. I'm sorry if you took it that way. I apologize for what I said. We restored the fellowship. All right. Oh, shake the shake the dust off. Oh my goodness. If that ain't some old Bible, that's like them down south people, man. They get them big Bibles, and I didn't know this, Sister Kim, but they had this thing in the Baptist church when I was growing up. I don't know if any of y'all ever heard this expression, reading someone. Okay, so if you've never heard this, what this means is that these old saints would go get their little dusty Bible, and they come up to you, and they start reading, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not lie, and then after they read all that stuff, they just close the Bible and walk away. And consider yourself read. Anybody online ever hear anybody do anything like that?
Oh, wow.
All right. So online, Brother Ken said forgiveness, and he agreed. Shake the dust. Yeah, man. They call you. They like you've been read, and people be up there all like late having the long white gowns, and they not rose but long white, and you've been read. You've been read. You do that again. Basically, I think what they were saying, I'm reading you this time. You do it again. I'm coming for you. Yeah, it was tough growing up in church, okay? So, what motives do we need to examine with these two guys? Let me ask you a question. I've been dying to ask this question about this with Tiffany. Are these kingdom citizens? Y'all killed me yesterday on Marcus, right? On Marcus, that successful Christian who doesn't have an appetite for the kingdom. But now we got two leaders in the church who don't talk to each other, and we don't touch that because they supposed to be. This deacon so-and-so and Reverend so-and-so. Told me what? I'm asking you, are they kingdom? Are they kingdom representatives? Do they represent the kingdom that Jesus is talking about? No, not for the last 2 years. Okay. All right. So Ken Carter says they're kingdom citizens, but not kingdom builders. I don't even know if they got the passport. I'm serious. I don't know if we can call them kingdom citizens. Jesus said in his kingdom, people don't act like that. All right, so here. All right, but you know what? Jesus in this same sermon says, judge not. But he did not say, don't judge. Jesus said, be careful how you judge, because the same judgment you use will one day be used against you. He never said don't judge. He said, you be careful, because the way you judging people, they're going to come read you. And they do, right? Okay? All right. All right. So can one person pursue peace when the other one refuses?
Yes.
How's that look?
You can pursue it.
All right, Sister Andy. Y'all tough today. Y'all.
It might go be resolved.
Oh, man. Y'all. They say, yeah, you can go ahead and pursue it, Reverend. So are we misrepresenting to the world what a kingdom person is? I mean, let's be honest. So y'all too young, y'all know, and y'all talk to everybody. So y'all don't have anybody here at the New Old Church who doesn't talk to you, who kind of, sometimes y'all will see me on occasion run to the back of the church. On those occasions when I'm trying to run to the back of the church, is usually when I see somebody I haven't seen in a long time. And I just want to get to them and say, I'm glad to see you. Before they go. And sometime while I'm standing right there in the middle, and if I turn my head to my left, I see people trying to scurry around me to the right. And I keep saying, are they trying to avoid me, or are they just trying to avoid the rush? You know what? This is my show. Come on now. Come on. Oh, man, I tell you. Okay. Okay. All right. So we can agree then, in this case study, it's possible for one person to pursue peace when the other one doesn't. So if we're kingdom people, we may have to be the person who pursues when the other person doesn't. Okay? So Jesus is really laying down some heavy stuff about his kingdom. Real different. Okay? So, we're talking about mercy, right? Now, here's another one. Okay, now, this may bear semblance to somebody or some situation that you know about, but I want to assure you that I have not used anybody's names. I have not used any real incidents. Any semblance is purely coincidental. That's my waiver. That's my statement. Okay? So if you know something like this, You just happen to know it. I don't know nothing. I'm like Schultz. I know nothing. Okay, a family member borrowed $3,000 from you 5 years ago. That's the case study, okay? They never repaid it. 3 years ago, 5 years ago, they borrowed $3,000. They never repaid it. Now they are experiencing financial trouble and ask you for help. All right? Here's the question. First question, do you help? Let me go ahead and ask my online people. I got a no and I got a yes. But they was unanimous in the house. They said no. Oh, we got the I don't know. You probably. What would you say, Yash? Oh, okay. Kim, what'd you say? Oh, it depends on what it is now. All right, so I got J.M. Carter. Jackie said no. Ken Carter said yes. Deacon Shirley Anderson said nope. Nadine Scott said no. So man, we only have most people in that question is trending toward no. And then we have folk in the house say it depends.
Worry about that, because once you borrow the $2,000, I always took from the door, if you don't pay me back, don't come back.
Oh, listen.
That's what I say. And
Listen.
I said that in my family.
And that's $3,000.
Now listen. At the association, at the New Hope Association, Reverend Lester Wormley preached about, exegeted this text in Acts 3 about the man who was at the gate called Beautiful and was lame. And he asked Peter for alms, Peter and John. He said, can you help me? And he made this point, and Brendan was there, he made this point. He said, we got to realize in the kingdom that if folk need help, they probably not in a position to pay you back. Because if they was in a position to pay you back, they probably wouldn't need help. Then Lester tried to go mess with me and say, if you help them, you don't need to be expecting to receive it back. Because the only reason why they came to you in the first place is because they couldn't do it. Pick the mic up.
If you couldn't afford to do it, you should not have done it. You give it with the expectation that you may not get it back.
Ooh. Oh, now that's deep, ain't it? All right, because some of us still waiting on that $3,000.
That's why I made the stipulation.
Oh my goodness. So here's what Ken Carter said. He said, I would give them advice but no funds. Now, go ahead. Mm. But why did I ask you in the first place? No. This is what the king. This is what here's underneath this, right? That if they could take care of that situation, whatever it was, they wouldn't ask for the 3,000 in the first place. Most folk are not in the habit of just asking folk for money to pad their account. You know, just to bury it in the yard, and so 5 years later they say, well, here's the 3,000 you asked me for. I asked you for. Most people are asking because they need it. And if they needed it and they had to ask you, reason probably dictates that they couldn't afford to pay you, but they asked you. So my philosophy personally is, if I feel like I can't afford to lose it, I'm not giving it to you. And when I give it to you, I ain't looking for it back. If I get it back, hallelujah. That's why I ain't giving you all that. I ain't giving you the 3. I'm sorry. Yes, Sister Carol?
Couldn't afford to do what they were doing. There's been people who have borrowed money, not from me, but people who have told me when people borrow money and they see them the next week going in their house with a bunch of shopping bags.
Well, that's something I might keep in consideration when you come back and ask me next time. I might say, hey, you know, last time I borrowed it, next thing I saw, you had a 75-inch TV. All right. Oh, okay. Okay, we talk about being merciful, right? Here's what Jackie Carter said. I would not loan them money, but I would give them some money. Then there is no expectation to repay. That was a no from a previous answer. And she also said, this has happened in the past, so I don't loan anything. I give what I can afford to give. And now there is, let me see the last thing she said. I think she said now there's a limit. I think that's, okay? So let's go on talking about this situation, right? Do you forgive the original debt? Do you forgive the original debt? Well, I'm going to be honest with you. You're going to have to forgive the original debt because if they coming back asking for more money, you know they ain't going to pay the original debt. I mean, they coming back. Look, can I tell y'all this? I know we're on Facebook, but don't tell nobody this, okay? I had a guy who literally ripped this church off. Ripped them off in the worst way. Back in the day, we had hired a guy to lay the floor in the lower auditorium and in the education building. When I gave him all this money to buy supplies and, you know, put down this tile next door and in the lower auditorium. So we give him advance money. He doesn't do it. He bought some supplies, he bought some tiles, but it wasn't nowhere equal to what we gave him to get started. Do you know that Edmund Washington, the late Edmund Washington, and I had to lay the floor in the education building and in the church because we didn't want to suffer that embarrassment of coming to the church to say, we got taken. Do you know, 2 weeks ago, I get a phone call, and the administrator said, Pastor, do you know somebody named so-and-so? I said, if you pronounce that name again in my face. Well, he says he knows you and he needs some help. I said, no. I said, no. I said, let me tell you what he did to the church. I forgave that original infraction, but I'm like, no, buddy, you ain't coming back to Perry and then walking over him and talking about he's merciful. No. Wherever he is, he can stay there. If they put him under the jail, he can stay there. He can rot out, whatever. I'm sorry, I know this on Facebook, but I didn't call nobody's name, but I'm just saying. This just happened 2 weeks ago. Now, the infraction took place over 10 years ago. And from that, well, I have to tell you, every now and then he would get in trouble. He needs somebody to bail him out, and he'd always wind up getting my phone number, which has never changed. I ain't never bailed him out, though. He'd come up with a sad song. I'm sorry. So this unforgiven debt. Do you forgive the original debt? I forgave his original debt. Can you forgive without lending more money? Oh, y'all getting hot now, boy. Okay. Does mercy require removing the boundaries? No. In fact, I show you more mercy when I put in a boundary. Because now you know there's some stuff you shouldn't do. If I remove the boundary, you just feel like, okay, whatever I do, he's going to bail me out. If I tell you, now look, if you do this, I'm not the one to help you. And sometimes we need to put up these boundaries with people and let them know, look, and you know, when Pastor Wormley was exegeting this text on the man at the gate called Beautiful, Peter said to him, silver and gold have I none. And he said, look, the text says that Peter says, silver and gold have I none, but it never said that Peter didn't have money. But Peter was really saying to the man, I got money, but what you need is not money. What you need is what I'm about to give you in the name of Jesus of Nazareth, rise up and walk. And just because you have resources does not mean you have an obligation to bring everybody out of their predicament that they got in. Oh, Lord. Hello? Because see, folk feel like, oh, he works every day. She got a job. Oh, wow, why don't I ask them? Peter said, I got money, but I'm not giving you silver and gold. I'll give you what you need in the name of Jesus. Get up and get a job. And that's what the man did. He taught him how to get up and walk, and he was able to take care of himself. So let's see what we got online here. All right. So here as somebody says, 3K is kind of steep. And Deacon Anderson said, no, you have to keep those boundaries. You have to keep the boundaries. All right. Amnesia, baby. I've given people, and they done totally forgot. I mean,
They didn't forget.
All right, so here's a question. Can mercy and accountability coexist? Can they work together? Can you be merciful and also hold people accountable at the same time? Okay. Okay. All right. Now, forgiveness doesn't ignore what happened. Now, this is a crucial point for Christians. If you've taken notes, write it down. It's a choice to love over resentment while you remain wise. Because if you did it to me before, the next time you do it, God's going to call me into account and say, well, if you knew that he was not responsible, you caused your brother or sister to sin because you knew they weren't going to be responsible. First time they got you. Because here's what people do. They say, well, I don't have it, but go talk to brother so-and-so. Why, you know what they're going to do to brother so-and-so. You know what they're going to do to sister so-and-so because they did it to you, right? Now you getting yourself caught up in sin because you're like, okay, they're not going to get me. I'm going to send them to the pastor. Oh, I knew this was going to get tough. All right, so what happens is mercy does not eliminate wisdom. Okay? Just because you're merciful don't mean you throw your mind out and you start saying, anybody come and need money, oh, just go to sister so-and-so, she'll give it to you. That's not wise. Because sometimes I'm just being an enabler. I'm not helping you.
That's right.
Right? Okay. You know, we ain't going to get off these Beatitudes, I'm telling you. Okay, we're going to look at the next one. Blessed are the pure in heart. This is about purity, okay? Okay, so purity is not simply about doing the right thing. Because a lot of times people start talking about the pure in heart, purity, they think about set of rules, you did this, you did that. But purity is about something deeper in the kingdom. And it's about raising a question. And the question is, why did I do it? Not what did I do, but what motivated me? What was my mindset? What was my heart thinking? Why did I get into this? That's purity, okay? Because here's the next point. I want to raise this question. I'm interested to see what you say online about this, okay? Here it is. Can you do the right thing for the wrong reason? Look before you leap. Can you do the right thing for the wrong reason? Because Jesus is, people who are hearing him and they say, man, we never heard people teach like this before. Because Jesus said like, blessed are the pure in heart. Blessed are the people who are, who not only think the right thing, but do the right thing. And they don't do the right thing for the wrong reasons, but they do the right thing because they do it for the right reason. Anybody home? Well, we're not talking about the world, right? We talk about the kingdom. And the kingdom is different because we know in the world, we're going to be motivated by our own self-interest. We're going to be motivated by, we have a president who is transactional. And one of the things that he always says to people is, what's in it for me? Now he's got his sons running his companies, and he has made more money in the last year than he made in all the years that he's been alive. Because now America owns part of NVIDIA. We own part of Intel. America never owned businesses that were the domain of the private sector. But when you're giving everybody a cut, oh, Lord have mercy. Let me see what my friends are saying online. Okay? All right. So, can you do the right thing for the wrong reason? Okay? A lot of times we do the right thing not because we are saying we have the heart of God, that we're moved with compassion. It's like, okay, Sometimes we do it because we know if we don't do it, it's not going to get done. Okay? But Jesus in the kingdom, we look at motive. We look at the why behind it. And the why isn't right. We have to ask ourselves, why are we doing it? Tough stuff, okay? Okay? And so next thing what Jesus talks about, we try to move on with these Beatitudes. Blessed are the peacemakers, not peacekeepers. Because many of us have become adept at keeping peace in our families. We are the wall. We are the bridge. We are the divide. We keep peace. We keep people who are warring factions away from each other. We are peacekeepers. But Jesus says in the kingdom, we become peacemakers. We're the ones who make the peace, not just keep the peace. You see the distinction? All right? And in all of our families, we have people in our families, you know, who are the peacemakers, the keepers, the peacekeepers. You know, they keep the peace. Every time a war about to break up, they come up and they say, well, you know, let's not fight. Let's work this thing out, right? But it's different from being a peacekeeper than being the person who actually makes peace. Okay, I'm just trying to get you to think about this, okay? Now, peace is not pretending that nothing happened. And there are a lot of people go around, they put the blinders on. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. Come on. You know, so stuff goes down and you just act like, I ain't seen nothing. Well, of course people love you. You're not going to hold nobody accountable. You're not going to speak up. You're not going to say, hey, this is wrong. Jesus says, I need people in the kingdom who are peacemakers, who can bring warring parties to the table and say, this is wrong. This is not the way Christians act. This is not the way we're going to do business. But a lot of Christians have adopted this mantra that says, it's not my business. They do what they want to do. And so we let them do it, okay? But Jesus says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God, okay? All right, so I got another case study. Oh, my goodness. Is this the same one? Hold on. Oh, no, this is different. Oh, this is very different. Oh, my. First of all, they did not go to New Hope. All right. 2 longtime members have not spoken for 3 years. I wonder if they was involved with that money. But they've not spoken for 3 years. Both attend worship. Now, here is, they go to the same church. They take communion together. They serve in ministry together. Each believes the other person should apologize first. When he come to me and acknowledge his part, I'll forgive him. I'm not opposed to forgiveness, but he got to come here to me. He got to come correct. All right? And then I'll forgive him. But if he don't come to me, I'm not going to him. So ask the group, who should move first? Uh-oh. Oh, boy, we done been through this before. So what does Matthew 5:9 says? Blessed are the makers, for they will be called the children of God. Now, here's another principle. Chances are pretty good in this situation as opposed to the other, that other people are aware. What you think? If you got two prominent members who have not spoken for 3 years, attend the worship and communion and serving the ministry together, but they don't talk, it's probably an open secret. That everybody say, they don't talk to each other. Okay? In this situation in the kingdom will require somebody who is a peacemaker to bring these two brothers together and say, come on now. You profess to be a kingdom citizen, but you're acting like a worldly person. So Jesus says, when you become the peacemaker, you're blessed. Now, let's raise the question. Have you ever been in a situation where you've had to become the peacemaker? All right? If you want to talk about that, tell me about what's that like.
Arguing over who can rap, who can rap better than the other, whose lyrics is better than the other, and it turned into a fight. And they're both my family, so my sister was home, everybody was home, but nobody went out there to break up that argument between. I didn't see the argument, but I could hear them. While I can hear them, before I can get downstairs, they was already in the fisticuffs. I didn't care. I got right in the middle, and I pushed both of them apart. And I told them, I said, you guys are family. What you're arguing over is something silly. It doesn't matter, I said, because you're not famous and you're not famous. Neither one of y'all is better than the other. We cut from the same blood. You're family. You're first cousins at that.
Wow.
So I had to get into the middle and break it up. And they was like, oh, but Aunt Tootie. I said, no Aunt Tootie. I'm talking to the both of you.
Right.
You're out here acting silly over something that's not even that important. Because neither one of you are rich. So I made them shake hands.
Now, let me ask you a question there. What if one of them was rich and the other not?
It didn't matter. They were still family. It didn't matter to me. They're still family.
Okay.
Your first
when
cousin.
you say neither one of you rich, I'm like, I'm richer than him.
No, your family.
Okay, cool. I'm just
family.
pumping the brakes on that.
Your
Okay,
family.
all right,
Right.
thank you. Anybody else have a situation like that where you had to become the peacemaker?
Well, the situation's family too, and it's about the land.
Oh my! Wait. We cousins, okay? So y'all know. And
It's about the land.
oh Lord, let me sit down.
The only thing I'm gonna say that he know is about the land. Grandma passes away, land goes in the air. Everybody's supposed to get their part. So the argument is who should get the bigger part, whatever. Who's the oldest? Blah 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 blah. And even I was one of the youngest people in the room, and I just stood up and said, what difference does it make who gets the biggest part? You're supposed to be equal. But then I said also to them, I said, what did your mother want? If she was standing right here, right now, what would Grandma say to you about this land? And they all just looked at each other, right? And one of the other persons stood up and said, well, you telling the truth on that. He said, but then we're going to get about the paying the taxes land, whatever. So the thing what I said, it's supposed to be a communal land, so if everybody put their part in there, it's not like you paying it all yourself or you paying it all. If you all put in there, it's 12 of you. If everybody put something in there equally, the taxes are paid.
Lord have mercy. Let's go on to the next question.
And you know.
I
So,
just
you know,
bothered.
that's basically what happened. That's basically what happened. They had to
Yeah,
do that, but that's a rough one.
But in my family, we do math like this. We divide 12 by 3. We don't do no equal payments. We get 2 or 3 people who be paying the taxes, and everybody, when it gets sold, I want my share. You know? Oh man, you just made me chuckle because my family had that, and then nobody want to pay the taxes. Heirs property. I'm like, okay. So here's a question. We talk about peacemaking, okay? And we've been through this, but let's raise it again. Does reconciliation require both parties? Can you have reconciliation with just one person, one part of the party? All right. So what do we get when we have just one person? Maybe. Okay, that's a good point. Okay. So in the kingdom, yes, go ahead.
And if the other person wasn't with you, then that's on them, but they did try.
Yeah. So Jesus, when he talks about the peacemaker, he says in the kingdom, we are the peacemakers. We're the ones who resolve issues. We're not the ones who just, are the peacekeepers. We're actually the ones who are actively going about trying to get people on the same page. Sometimes it will happen, sometimes it won't. But in the kingdom, Jesus says, your role is to be the peacemaker. Okay? Understanding that sometimes in the kingdom, it doesn't work out the way we drew it up. But you can take solace and comfort, Jesus says, because you've done your thing. You've done your role. You have become the peacemaker. You are not just the peacekeeper. So sometimes you got to be the person who is strong enough, big enough to say to people, look, the 3 of us need to sit down and come to some resolution. Maybe you get there, maybe you don't, but you did what you were supposed to do. Okay? Because Jesus will talk later on in Matthew chapter 18 about when these systems break down. And when you got ought against your brother and you try to work it out and it doesn't work, he said, go get a witness and try to work it out with them. And if it doesn't work, take your witness. That means eyewitness, not somebody you just informed. But take them to the church. And then if they don't hear the church, then the church should remove them or excommunicate them. Now, you don't see that happening today in the church, right? Because, we don't really hold true to what Jesus says about the part of being peacemakers. Good stuff. Can one person pursue peace when the other refuses? I guess we're in agreement on that. So we talk about what is the church's responsibility. We talked about that a little bit in Matthew chapter 18. Church has a responsibility. That when we see this stuff begin to boil over inside of the church, the peacemakers in here need to come together and say, look, we need to get these people together and let's cool everything down and have a conversation. I've had, most of y'all have never, a lot of people in church don't even know I have an office. But sometimes, because there has been a lack of peace, I've had to bring people into my office and sit them down and say, okay, we got to come up with a resolution. And I always tell people, probably the worst place you want to be is in a place where you have me trying to be the judge and decide how to get peace. Because I'm not going to get the peace you want to get. I'm going to hurt your feelings. I'm going to tell somebody you need to apologize. Somebody, I might have to sit them down. But my goal is to become the peacemaker, not the peacekeeper. Because if I'm the peacekeeper, that means every time I turn my head, something's going to flare up again. But if I make the peace, I help the peace to happen, then I can go to sleep and not worry about getting a call at 2 in the morning, so-and-so, oh, it broke out again. All right? Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, do you feel like every encounter or situation requires an apology. I guess the reason why I'm saying that is because what I've been noticing, or from my experience, is I haven't really been utilizing an apology. I've been feeding the person with kindness, and that's been working in my favor. So we don't necessarily need to sit down for reconciliation. I've just been choosing to handle it, feed them with kindness.
Yeah, you feed them with kindness, but if I offended you, then at some point I need to come to you and apologize for my action. Okay, you might be feeding me with a long-handled spoon because you don't want to have that real personal encounter with me because maybe I was real nasty or negative to you, and so you say every time I see Perry, I'm just going to smile and be nice at him from a distance. But at some point, because I am a kingdom person, I need to come to you and say, look, I'm sorry for what I said, sorry for what I did, and maybe we need to enact or get the assistance of peacemakers and say in the church, I'm really having a hard time dealing with Perry because, I can't talk to him. Maybe I need to get a third party in the room and say, look, I've been trying to treat him with kid gloves, treat him with a distant smile all the time, but he's still rude, still mean, still whatever. And maybe that's the way we pursue getting peace. Right now, all you're doing is being a peacekeeper. You try to keep the peace, but we need somebody bigger who can make peace. You see the difference?
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, Reverend Perry.
Yeah.
As she was saying about she hasn't apologized, but she's treating the person with kindness. The person she's treating with kindness may be looking for that apology, but her kindness might be just going nowhere.
Yeah, it is going nowhere.
It's just,
It's going nowhere because they haven't
because they haven't received that apology that
Right.
they think they deserve.
All right, she wants to rebut. Go ahead.
So it's actually been the reverse.
Okay.
I feel like I'm owed an apology, but instead, I don't necessarily.
Oh, okay.
I'm
So you like me. You like me. You
Yeah.
done walk. You done mistook meekness for weakness, and you just sort of walk on. You keep smiling, keep showing them. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've been there. Yeah. Hello, y'all online. Hello. Yeah. So it came out fine. It came out. Thank
No,
you.
no.
Yes, Reverend. Yes,
It's not me,
Go ahead.
but- No, I just feel like I'm owed an apology, but instead.
But if you can't effectuate the apology, you need to engage a peacemaker, because all you are trying to do is keep peace. And one day you're not gonna smile. One day you're gonna forget to hold up your defenses, and it's gonna break down. But if you get somebody who you trust and say, look, I'm having a problem with so-and-so, they wronged me, and they never really were accountable. I don't feel comfortable talking to them. Jesus said, blessed are the peacemakers. So the peacemaker comes in and says to the two of you, look, can we sit down and have coffee? And get it out, because we don't want it to wind up being one of those 3 or 5 year things. But you will have put yourself in the role of being the peacekeeper. But that's not a sustainable role. What you need is somebody who is kingdom-minded that you can trust and say, hey, I really want to talk to him or her. I think they offended me. I don't know how to do it. The peacemaker says, okay, we'll set up an intervention. We'll set up something. We'll just start off with a talk, bring everybody together, and put the cards on the table. And maybe the person will say, gee, I really didn't know I hurt your feelings. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Also, I'm thinking that she's putting herself in the situation where now you have an ought against that person.
Right.
Because you said you are owed an apology.
Yeah, that's that biblical
Yeah.
principle that's real tough. Because as long as you have a bad feeling against me,
Yeah,
and I don't know about it, that's
Right.
between you and God.
yeah, the person may not know.
when it spills over to now I feel it,
But
then I
They-
got to
they-
leave
yeah.
my gift at the altar and reconcile
But
with
you
you.
still have an ought. Even if they know, you still have a problem.
Right.
Because
right.
you said you felt that the person owed you an apology.
Mm. That's heavy, isn't it? Yeah. But that's why the church needs to be a place where there are peacemakers. Because she has put herself in a position where she's trying to keep a peace. That's real tenuous. Because the other person don't even know that there has been a treaty. They haven't signed off on anything. They just see you smiling. Oh, that's just Tiffany being Tiffany. You know, yeah, she's happy-go-lucky. Yeah, yeah. So you need to get, as Jesus said in the kingdom, get the peacemakers, not the keepers, the makers. Let's sit down and broker this deal where you say to the person, look, here's the issue. She feels like she's been offended, hurt, maybe by something you said or did. And the person can say yes or no, I agree, I disagree. And then after that, the church is a New Testament believing church, biblical, then it should go through the biblical steps of church discipline. Tell it to the elders, tell it to the pastors, tell it to the leaders. You know? Does that help you? Okay, that's a tough one there. All right, can a congregation preach reconciliation to the world while tolerating unresolved hostility inside of itself? I mean, how does it look for us to tell the world to get their act together? Right. And that's what it looks like to a lot of people, that we are telling the world to get its act together and we haven't gotten ours together. All right? Oh, so we got two no's. We got, oh my, the no's are coming in big time. Oh my. So what's a better way of stating that? Okay, then let's rewrite it. Should a church preach reconciliation to the world while tolerating unresolved hostility inside itself? I mean, if the pastor's out of order, right? If the deacons are out of order, I mean, you know, our lifestyles are not consistent, we're preaching one thing and we're living another way, should we then critique the world? Right. So this is all of what Jesus is talking to when he talks about being peacemakers. That you can't really be a peacemaker when you aren't living peaceably. Okay. Now here's one of these verses that kind of seeps into the culture. Okay. Blessed. Okay. Now, Jesus has been saying, blessed are, blessed are, blessed are. And then he gets up to verse number, let's see. Blessed are you, or blessed, number 10, blessed are those, okay? So, it turns this thing, makes it more personal, okay? Here goes, persecuted for righteousness. Matthew chapter 5, verse 10 and 12. This beatitude changes the mood, and you feel the shift, okay? Jesus now begins to talk about, he talked about being poor in spirit. He talked about mourning, the meek, hungering and thirsting, mercy, being pure in heart, being a peacemaker. And those are things that are really desirable, okay? Those are things where you're like, okay, I'll check off on all of these. Yeah, these are good qualities to have as a kingdom person. Then he gets real down and personal and says, if you're going to stay in the kingdom going to cost you. okay? Because not every, well, put it like this. Jesus says, if you're going to be in the kingdom, you're going to get persecuted. Persecution is part of the kingdom. So he's letting people know, you sign up for this, you think it's a great assignment, you're going to get persecuted. Okay? So all the other stuff, poor in spirit, meek, all of that, those are great characteristics to have. But then he says, let me be real honest. This will cause you physical harm. You could die for the kingdom. You could become a martyr. Okay? Now, here's something that we got to understand in the 21st century. Anytime somebody says something negative to us, anytime somebody does something that we don't agree with, we call it persecution. Oh, they don't like me. They just disagree with you. They just don't see it the way you see it. So not every negative reaction, okay, is persecution. Nobody's out to get you just because they like blue and you like yellow. But we've gotten so sensitive in the kingdom till we think everybody should agree with me. Everybody should say exactly what I'm saying. But that's not it, okay? People can disagree with you in the kingdom and you not be persecuted. But Jesus says, blessed are you when you are persecuted, okay? Now, here's a question. And I want my friends online to answer this, okay? How do we distinguish in suffering for Christ from suffering because of our own poor behavior? Look what he said. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness. Blessed are you. You see the shift? When people insult you, persecute you, and say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Okay? So you see that, right? So now it's getting deeper. Okay? So, how do we make the difference, the distinction between suffering for Christ from suffering because of our choices? Okay. Brenda? Thanks.
To me, suffering for Christ is when you've been in the world and then you decide to make Christ your Lord and Savior. People around you don't believe you. They start treating you different ways. They don't want to be bothered with you. They make fun of you. They criticize you.
Right.
And things. It's only because you have accepted Christ. They don't believe that you have accepted Christ. It's just a whole different scenario of how people treat you when you accept Christ.
Okay. Yeah, and I think what Jesus is pointing to is that every persecution you will face as a Christian is not because you're a Christian. Some stuff we will suffer because of the choices we made. We made some bad choices. We got hooked up with some bad people. We did some bad stuff, and we suffered. And so we can't be righteous and walk around and say, I'm suffering this because I'm a Christian. Some of it is because we just made some bad decisions. Okay? And so we have to recognize that when our suffering is because of our choice, or we're suffering because we are kingdom citizens. Okay? So, all right. So we got over here, how do we distinguish between suffering for Christ and suffering because of our own poor behavior? Oh, I think they were responding to the prior question. Hold on. Okay. But anyway, let's go on. And we're going to be talking about kind of ending up on these parables. I'm sorry, the Beatitudes. We start talking about salt and light. Okay? Yeah, go ahead. The mic.
Thinking about the Columbine case where the
okay.
guy killed the girl. He asked her, was she a Christian? And, she said yes.
Mhm.
And he shot her and killed her. So that's, to me, that's suffering for Christ's sake. So she said he killed her because she said she was a Christian.
That's a good point. Thank you for that. Now, when we get to verses 13 to 16, I want to show you this. I think this is fascinating. Something happens, okay? He says, not blessed are, but you are. See, blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are the merciful. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst. Blessed are. Now, when he gets to verse 13, look at here in the text, you see it, right? He starts saying, you are. You are. Okay? Not blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are you when men revile you and persecute you. Blessed are, blessed are. Now in verse 13, you are. Okay? Verse 14, you are. Okay? And that's not so subtle a shift. That's pretty radical. Okay? The movement. So, in Matthew chapter 5, verse 13, anybody know about the significance of salt in the Bible? What was salt used for in the Bible? To season. Okay? To preserve, as a preservative. Do you know what one of the greatest uses of salt was? Currency. It was money. All right? And we got, from this Sermon on the Mount, you hear people talk about, man, he's like the salt of the earth. Dependable, reliable. Okay? So, in this culture, when Jesus started talking about salt, matter of fact, in the Old Testament, they paid wages in salt. And to do a covenant, to bind in a covenant, what they would do is two parties would come together and they'd make an agreement. And here's how they made the agreement insoluble, where it could not break. You bring your salt, and I bring my salt, and we mix the salt together. And the only way we could break that covenant contract is if we could somehow separate every particle of salt that has now been intertwined and intermingled and mixed up with each other. So the idea was, when we put the salt in the bag and shook it together, that relationship was like salt. A lot of couples, when they marry, they will use a salt ceremony. He'll have his salt, she'll have hers. It may be in different colors. They'll pour it into a container to make a design. Okay? And after making the design, and when the audience sees the different colors, maybe hers was pink and his was blue, and maybe they had white sand or whatever, and they put all that in one container, and when you looked at it, the image was the only way to violate this marriage was to take out each person's individual grain of salt and give it back to them, which was impossible, because to do that, you'd have to actually mar what you made, and you can't really take the salt pebbles or whatever, the grains, and you imagine somebody taking thousands of grains of salt and saying, okay, this marriage is over. Here's all of your red back, and here's all of my blue. Don't work like that. Okay. All right. So salt was pretty important. So salt was valuable. Ancient world, we talk about seasoning, preserving. And so Jesus says this, that in the kingdom, you are like the preservative. That when you come in contact with stuff, it changes. All right? But Jesus says, look at here. Let's look at the metaphor. What he says, you are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? I mean, you can't take salt back to the refinery and say, oh, this salt doesn't preserve anymore. Just add a few drops of water, stir it up, let it dry, and it'll become, no, that's not how it works. Okay? So how do you get it salty? It said it's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot, because it's lost its purpose. So Jesus says that salt is purposeful, but get this, the only reason that salt has a value is when it comes in contact with something. Salt that has no contact is worthless. It can't preserve and it can't season. If you keep it in the salt shaker, guess what? It's just salt in the shaker. If you don't ever take the shaker, the salt is worth nothing. Okay? It's not going to see. I mean, you sit up there, you in the restaurant, you got the salt shaker in there, and you're like, boy, I wish they had seasoned this steak. Well, if you leave the seasoning on the table and the seasoning never comes in contact with the meat, you go in there and you're like, man, I got all kind of seasoning, man. I got cumin, I got curry, I got cinnamon, I got salt, I got Himalayan salt, I got iodized salt, I got all kind of salt. But do you use it? No, I don't let this come in contact with nothing. These my spices, baby. These my herbs. Jesus said in the kingdom to have herbs and spices and never let them come in contact with that which needs seasoning is senseless. You the salt of the earth, then you got to come in contact with the earth. I don't like unsaved people. I don't want to be around sinners. Wait, and you salt? And you're the preservative? Salt has to make contact. Now here's the point. Now remember, Jesus is preaching this. First century people hear this, and they know what Jesus is saying. Because the 21st century people don't know, but guess what they understood? Jesus is saying this, that the church cannot influence a world that it refuses to touch. If you stay in these four walls and you keep saying, they lost, they know where we at, and you the salt, and you don't ever come out of the shaker, woo, we're going to be in trouble up in here. You follow what I'm saying? All right, anybody online want to talk back to us about that, about the salt, how important it is? And if the salt does not come into contact with the world, the salt can't help the world. Okay? Now, how can Christians engage culture without becoming indistinguishable from it? How can we help the culture without being absorbed by the culture? Maintain our character and our identity. How can Christians engage culture without becoming indistinguishable from the culture? Talk to me. How are we gonna be salt and light without just being absorbed by the culture? Anybody? Talk to me. Yeah. Brenda, thank you.
I said you can't act higher than,
Okay.
but then again you are. So that I feel like I'm contradicting myself by saying that, if that makes sense.
No, but give me some more. Maybe we'll come on.
So it's kind of like you have to be relatable, but then you have to stand out as well. If I could give you an example, like, I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Okay.
You don't have to say to someone necessarily like, I am a Christ follower, that's why I'm helping you with these bags,
Yeah, okay.
with these grocery bags.
I think you're on to a good point. And I think Jesus was saying in this sermon, never does the salt announce itself as salt. The light does not announce itself as light. The light does not appear and say, hey, I'm light. But if you put the candle and light it, it does not have to announce itself. It will just dispel darkness. The salt does not come and say, I am a preservative. I keep stuff. Nope, the salt gets applied and it does its job. We do not have to announce to the world that we are the saving agents. We just do our job and the world gets saved. Because Jesus announces in this sermon, especially we're going to see it in the next chapter, that if your thing is as announcing who you are, you get your reward. If you go and tell people, I'm salt, and people start applauding you for being a preservative, then you already got your reward. Because people then say, hey, Perry was salt. Perry rescued us. Thank you, thank you. Jesus said, but the real salt just gets applied and does its job. And the person who does it in secret, God sees and he will reward them openly. You see that connection? All right, thank you for that. All right, so as we get to this last beatitude, okay, you talk about the light. Light is supposed to be visible. That's what light is, okay? It's visible, okay? And so Jesus says, let your light shine. There's a whole lot in there, y'all, okay? Every one of us is a light. Jesus said, let your light shine, okay? Now, I'm wondering if there's something happening online because I don't see any response. I see my folk on there, okay? But if you want to respond online, we're right here. We're checking the feed every now and then, make sure we're keeping up with you, okay? So, the light is supposed to be visible. So Jesus says, what sense does it make to take a light, a candle that is supposed to dispel darkness, and then take a bushel or a basket and cover up the light? Makes no sense, okay? It said, you are the light of the world. Maybe talk about a kingdom. It said, a town built on a hill that cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. So, when you light the way, you're not just lighting the way for yourselves. You're lighting the way for other people. Other people find out how to get in the kingdom by looking at your light. So when they see your light, look what it says here. And in the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Okay, so here's this connection. Jesus says, as Christians, we are supposed to be a light. We're supposed to have a positive effect on the culture. We don't have to announce ourselves, because the thing about light is light never comes up and says, hey, I'm light. The Bible says in Genesis chapter 1 that there was darkness and chaos. And all God did was announce the light. And what did he do? God said, let there be light, and what happened? There was light. Now, if you want to go and parse Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, 2, and 3, before God made the sun, God made light. Okay? The sun is the brightest star in our solar system. But God, before he made the sun, okay, he made light. And he just made it by the power of his spoken word. He said, let there be light, and light appeared. And from Genesis chapter 1, light has dispelled darkness. And when his son came into the world, his son in John chapter 1 said he was the light that lighted everyone who came into the world. In him was light, and the light was the light of men. Okay? So, you and I as Christians, as part of this kingdom, we got a light. You have to go around saying, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. You don't have to sing that song. All you do is show up. And when you show up, darkness has to flee. Because I don't care where you are. It could be pitch black. And you don't need a 60-watt bulb. If it's pitch black and all you got is a match, and you strike that match, darkness will flee. You don't need a laser. You don't need a big old flashlight. All you need is your little light. Your light could be 15 watts. But when they turn on your light, wherever it was dark, all of a sudden, the light can't overpower it. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. What is your Shekinah glory? Is that some type of light or your aura or
the
something?
Shekinah glory is an Old Testament expression for the very presence of God. He was seen in glory. In the Old Testament, when the children of Israel were on their way out of Egypt, the Lord showed up in a pillar of cloud by day and fire by night. That cloud, the presence was his glory. The Shekinah is the glory of God, his very glory. What do I like to tell people? Read Isaiah chapter 6. Then when Isaiah went to church, he was religious, but he said, in the year the King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord. He was high and lifted up. His train filled the temple. And the angels, the cherubims, they came and they started with this three-part pronouncement. Glory, glory, glory. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. And they would touch down and they would say that three-part thing, and then they would take off. And Isaiah said when he saw the angels coming, descending, making their announcement and leaving, he said, suddenly a cloud filled the temple. The presence of God was visible. It was thick. That was his Shekinah. So his train filled the temple. Now, best way I can explain train is when a woman gets married, that thing behind her gown is called her train. When God showed up in the temple, his presence showed up. If I can help you a little bit more, when Moses said, God, if you really with me, I believe it's Exodus 33, he said, Lord, show me your glory. God said, Moses, are you crazy? If you ever saw me, you'd die. But God put him in the cleft of a mountain and said, Moses, I'm going to pass by you, and I will allow you to see my goodness. Yeah, and he passed by him, and he was able to see and I'm saying this, that God's light was so powerful that you couldn't look God in the face. God's not a man. You can't look God, I'm going to look him in the eye. No, you ain't going to look him in the eye. No. No, his presence is that intimidating. The only way Moses could see him is not see him frontally, but all he could see as he passed by.
So people really shouldn't refer to people, a person as having the Shekinah glory? Only God?
Well, the Shekinah glory, as I understand it, is the presence of God.
But I've heard people say, "Oh, I see her or his."
Man, people say a
Shekinah
lot of
glory. So
stuff.
that's why I just.
People say a lot of
That's
stuff.
why I asked you.
Well,
what
I'm just
specifically-
saying.
Okay. All
Yeah, I don't talk about people like that.
Okay. All right.
You ain't never heard that from
Well,
me.
you gave me an explanation. Thank you.
I didn't say that online. I did not say
only
that.
for God. Only for God.
I don't even know where to go from that. Yeah. But Shekinah glory is the presence of God, His presence. Okay. I don't know in what sense people use that. I don't hear that often. But when they came out of Egypt, His presence led them, and He showed up as a pillar of cloud and a pillar of fire. Oh, that's a good one there. Thank you for that. I have to ponder that one a little bit. Okay, now, these Beatitudes about transformation. And so what I'm going to put on the screen is a graphic that talks about, for us, the Beatitudes need to be what we call a mirror. Okay? And I want you to rate yourself. Okay? You don't have to rate yourself out loud. Those of you at home, or online, rate yourself, okay? So we're going to look at these Beatitudes and rate yourself 1 to 5 and ask this question: where is Jesus inviting you to change? Okay? We can do the scale. 1, what we're going to use. 1 is good. 5 needs some help. Okay? 3, mess. So 1 is good, 5 is 3 middle road. So where's God asking you, inviting you to change? Number 1, depend on God. We said, blessed are the poor in spirit. And the whole thing about what being poor in spirit is knowing where your help came from. Knowing that you were not sufficient in and of it by yourself, that it was because of God Himself that you were able to be where you are. Okay? Second time, we talked about mourning, being broken, not because I have death in my family, but because my heart feels what God feels. Where are you on that? 1 would be the highest, 5 would be the lowest. Rate yourself. Okay? Thirdly, we talked about being meek, not weak, but having strength of character to know that just because I can. We talked about the pastor who had the young minister who could have crushed him, but he said, look, tell me what you're seeing that I may be missing. Knowing how to handle the strength and the abilities and talents that God gives you. How are you doing? Is God inviting you to change? Okay? Number 4, we talked about being hungry. Okay, what is it that I am insatiably after? What is it that I want to have more than anything? And Jesus said, in the kingdom, God has to be your main priority. You have to hunger and thirst after Him more than anything because He's the only one that can fill you. We talked about getting things, and then after we got them, we were not satisfied with them, right? So where are you with that, all right? Mercy, showing mercy. And we talked about the difference between mercy and grace. And because God kept from us what we should have had happen, that's mercy. That we should become the kind of mercy showers. We can cover people. We can help people keep them from the storms and the vicissitudes of this life. Okay? We can be merciful. We can show mercy. We also can show grace, where we give people what they don't deserve. Okay? So where's God inviting you to change? Okay? Blessed are the pure in heart. Talk about your motives. Not just what you do, but why do you do what you do? Are you doing the right thing for the wrong reason? You know, you're doing it just because you want to be seen, just because everybody else is doing it. Okay? How we doing? You got to rate yourself. I don't want to know what your scores are. All right? This is the Beatitude mirror. Okay? So, peacemaking. We talked about that is difference between being a peacekeeper. And many of us in the kingdom are in open conflict, and all we try to do is keeping this stuff from erupting in public. We're peacekeeping. We need people who are going to be peacemakers, who are going to go in and sit people down and say, look, this is how we act in the kingdom. You got to stop acting like this. You got to stop doing this. You got to reconcile. You got to forgive. You got to move on. Okay? Now, if you see your role as a peacekeeper, you're going to keep it going because you don't want to have a confrontation. If you see your role as a peacemaker, you may be the third-party interventionist who has to step in and say, hey, look, y'all, we need to sit down and talk. Because most of the time, when stuff, we talked about the persons who weren't talking for a couple of years, by the time it gets to that, it's an open secret in the whole church. Everybody know. They say have a wedding. Don't sit so-and-so at the table with so-and-so. You right? How do people know that? They know that there's trouble. You put them two at the table, hey, shame on you. I told you you shouldn't have done that. But somebody needs to be the peacemaker and say, look, let me get my hand at it and see if I can't help them to reconcile. That way you win a brother or sister to Christ. Okay? Then we said, number 8, courage under opposition. Now, here Jesus started changing his thing about being persecuted. Now, here Jesus says, blessed are you when people persecute you. All right? But when your persecution is because of righteousness, it's different than when you get persecuted because you just went out there and did something that you shouldn't have done. When you get persecuted because you broke a law. It's another thing to get persecuted because you were preaching Jesus or you're just trying to act like a Christian. But it's another thing when you get persecuted because you should have been persecuted. Uh-oh. Then salt. We talk about salt having kingdom influence. Salt does not do its job until it comes in contact with something. You keep the salt in the shaker, right? It's just in the shaker. When you shake the salt, put it on something, it starts changing the flavor. When you put it on there, it will preserve and keep things from spoiling. But if you never use it, it's never going to affect it. All right? All right. All right. All right. And then finally, light. We are called in the kingdom to be visible witnesses. So look at all of these 10. Where is Jesus inviting you to change? As you rate it yourself, I hope you scored 1 on every one of them. Maybe there's some place where you scored a 3, 4, or 5. Maybe that's a place where God's saying you need to do more. You need to pay more attention to that. All right? Those are our beatitude. Okay? So, as we get ready to wrap up this part of teaching, I want to raise this question. Which beatitude is most difficult for you? Which one of them is most difficult for you personally? Talk to me. Those of you online, I raised the question. Which of these beatitudes, we went through them, 10 of them, well, I'm sorry, 8 of them. Which one is more difficult for you? being poor in spirit, mourning, meekness, hungering for righteousness, mercy, purity, being a peacemaker, being faithful under pressure. Which one is most difficult for you? Now, we raised this question yesterday when we started. Now, after having been through 6 hours, or what we would really call 6 weeks of intensive training on this, what do you say now? Which beatitude is most difficult for you personally? All right, look at some of our friends online. I see everybody's so anxious to speak on this. Woo! I don't know. Anybody want to share? Is there anyone that's challenging for you? All right, all right. Anybody? Anybody have one that's really like stands out to you? Like, I know I need help on that. Mercy. Okay. All right. It's not, look, we're not going to flunk you out the kingdom. If I say something, everybody ain't going to let me. Look, I don't have the key to the kingdom. I'm not the gatekeeper of the kingdom. Okay? God's the one who gets you in and out the kingdom. Jesus just comes to bring his manifesto and say the kingdom ain't like the kingdoms y'all been around. Because in this kingdom, the king say all of his subjects act the way the king want them to act. Mm-hmm. All right, so before we go, is there any questions or comments about the Beatitudes? We went through Matthew chapter 5, verse 1 to 16. And anybody have any questions or comments on anything that we talked about on these last 2 sections? Maybe online, in person, anybody? Okay, so online, Ken Carter said faithfulness under pressure. Okay, that's an area where it needs is difficult for him. Okay? Does anybody got a question, comment, anything you want to know I can help you with on these? Yes, ma'am.
I'm trying to remember. I'm looking through my notes and trying to remember. I needed an illustration. We were just moving on, and you said, I think something to the effect of sometimes you just do things for the sake of, for the wrong reason. I'm trying.
Oh yeah, doing the right thing for the wrong reason.
Right, right. Can you give an illustration?
Well, I could feed you because I want recognition.
Oh.
Yeah. You know, I could feed you, and then I can go on I can post it online and say, hey, guess what? I just fed 50 people. I did the right thing, but my motive wasn't right.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have a lot of people in the kingdom who, you know, when you start listening to people, they start talking about all these people following them. They aren't literally following them. They may be watching what they say and watching what they present online, and so they want views. So some people will set up situations where they're being filmed, acting like a good Samaritan. And they weren't really trying to be a good Samaritan, they were trying to get views. I see all the time people go around and they'll give people $100, $500. But that's a lot of money. But then when I realize they're getting monetized for the number of people who will look at that and tweet and retweet and see it on Instagram or Reels and all that. And so people are like, see this, look at this. Look. And so, you know, we're saying, wow, that was awful generous. But a lot of times they're not doing that because they are godly people. They're doing it because they know it will get them influence. And when companies monetize you because you say, okay, I can bring 100,000 views, they say, okay, we'll start advertising on your page. So to get more people to view, I may go out there and play like the Good Samaritan. And you notice how, I ain't trying to be mean now. Okay, Tiffany, I'm not trying to be mean. But you notice how a lot of these people, they do their good works and somebody else is filming it. Where are they when I'm doing something good? I mean, every now and then I do something good, but nobody have a camera and be like, hold it, Reverend, go back and do that again. No, I rarely get caught on camera doing good stuff. Oh, you look at me like that. Okay, okay. Yeah, but when people do that, they do the right things, but they have the wrong motives. So if I'm feeding the hungry just so that people can come online and say, wow, look at that church, man. They just doing all of this stuff that, and churches get caught up in that. Look how many views we got. Look how many viewers we have. Yes, ma'am. Can y'all give a... Yeah, go ahead.
Football players, basketball players, those, they have on TV how they giving out toys. You can see them handing the toys to the kids.
Yeah.
But are their motives right? Some of
They're
them not.
publicity.
Yes, publicity.
They're for publicity.
That's it.
Okay? Every year, I'm not trying to be self-serving, but just so you know, every year at Thanksgiving, we'll give out over 100 baskets to people. Nobody ever come by to film us. You let an NBA star give out 50 turkeys.
Just 50.
He on ESPN everywhere. Oh, great. I mean, it's good that they did it, but a lot of times they'll do it for the right reason. Yeah, go ahead.
And it also depends on why someone is doing it. Let's make sure we mention that, because although we might believe every situation is done for publicity, sometimes it's to make the public
aware,
see certain things so that it can encourage them to do it as well. I want to make sure I make that clear, because
that's a very good point.
I do a lot of social media, and if I happen to record certain things.
We wasn't even talking about
No, I know. No, but this is very important, because no. I'm not talking about me. But what she said, it hit home for me, because I can see it from that perspective.
But if you've been through the teaching and you know about doing things for righteousness, if your motive is right, because you can't stand on the corner and put a placard up and say my motive is right. Sometimes you just got to do what you believe is right, and folk are just going to have to decide whether they agree with you or not. Because if every time we went out on Tuesday, like today, we're going to feed people. If every time we got and fed people, we say, hey, we're doing this because Jesus told us to feed the hungry. Bring the Hudson News, the Hudson Chronicle, bring Eyewitness News by, pretty soon, Jesus be saying, you know what, Perry, all that work you did for New Hope, you got your reward. But Lord, I said, Lord, in your name. He said, well, hold on, Perry. You were the one getting the views. You were the one getting the likes. You weren't building my kingdom. But Lord, we called on your name. We spent our money. We helped people who were starving. Thank you, but I never knew you. This is this kingdom stuff Jesus talked about. I made you, I never knew you. Yes, go ahead. Give her the, thank you.
Just like for the fact that I was just maybe think about, somebody always criticized me about you always helping my fellow workers do something or giving them things to help them. And they say, you always do that. Why do you always do that? I said, because they asked for the help. And it never occurred to me to say no. They'll come, and everybody does, they know, go ask Miss Handy, she'll help you do this or get this, whatever. And I said, it just never occurred to me to say no, because they asked for help. And also for the fact, if I want help, I want somebody to help me.
But that's what Jesus said, blessed are you when you do stuff for righteousness' sake. Because
you get
it's
persecuted
the right,
for it. They like you too
exactly.
soft.
But when you do it because it's the right thing, not because of the payoff, not because of what I'm going to get out of it, but because it's the right thing to do. Jesus said, blessed are you. Okay, and that's what all these Beatitudes are about. So I'm gonna leave this piece on the board as we get ready to go to part 3. I'm gonna leave this up here and talk about some things that our society, our culture admires. And when you look at this as opposed to the Beatitude, this is the complete opposite of what Jesus has been preaching in his sermon. These are things that society values. Jesus in his kingdom, he's not telling anybody to aspire to be rich, powerful, have fame, beauty, or influence. But that's what our culture says. But Jesus said, my kingdom is not of this world. But if you're going to be a part of my kingdom, you'll be known as a transformed person. Okay, so with that, we're going to close this part 2. And we want to thank all of our friends who were able to join us online. And thank you so much for your participation. Okay? All right. And hope to see you again on tomorrow as we get to the halfway point of Summer on the Mount, as we look at Jesus' sermon. So we're just at verse number 17. We'll be starting there tomorrow. We will finish up chapter 5 tomorrow, and then we'll have our space to finish up 6 and 7 on the next 3 sessions. Okay, so we're on target. We're gonna get there. All right. So I think they have some lunch for us in the sanctuary. So if you were here with us, you be getting ready to eat, so we're getting ready to do that again. We want to say thank you online. I want to thank Reverend Tyler. I thank my son remotely for all of y'all helping us to get this, to make it happen. And thank you for those of you who are physically with us. God bless you. Let's have a word of prayer. Lord, thank you for this time of learning and the fellowship. We ask that you can please be with us as we go through the balance of our days. We commit it to you in your hands. We say thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. Thank you so much.